We're good to go.
We're live.
Okay, the meeting is called to order. Teresa, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Jocelyn Burgo. Here. Trustee Gordon Cook.
Here.
Trustee Marsha Gray. Here. Trustee Bob Johnson. Trustee Michael Lazio.
Here.
Trustee Lori Lamagnon. Trustee Yummy Pandolfi.
Here.
Trustee Noel Stepp. Trustee Ronald Stevens.
Here.
Trustee Rita Weiss.
Here.
Trustee Susan Wilson.
Here.
Trustee Michelle Wyckoff.
Here.
Trustee Lori Lamagnon. Trustee Bob Johnson. Did you say those two were on the line?
Bob Johnson is online. Bob, can you hear us?
Is Lori there also?
Yes, Lori is here as well.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. All right, for those in which we'll have the pledge and invocation from Michael.
So if you join me at the Pledge of Allegiance, the flag was over there. Where is it?
Oh, look at me.
I believe there's a flag somewhere.
Well, since it was over there, we'll imagine it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So in a moment of prayer and reflection, I've been pondering the word endurance because in these days and these times, it takes a lot of endurance to run this race. And so we're commanded throughout the scriptures to do that. And Hebrews chapter 12 says, let us run with endurance and active persistence the race that is set before us. And so we're running in life's race. It's not a 100-yard dash. It's a marathon, right? And so elsewhere, Paul exhorts us in Philippians chapter 3, says, forget what lies behind because there's nothing we can do about what lies behind. Press on to the upward calling, to the things that you've been called to. And so if you wouldn't mind joining me in a word of prayer. Father, I just ask for endurance for all of us here today to run the race with endurance, keep pressing on no matter what. Father, would you help us to finish the race well, finish the race strongly? Would you give us wisdom along the way to continue to run this race and encourage everyone that needs encouragement as we run this race, as we go along? There's so many who are downtrodden. There's so many that are hurting in this hour. Lord, would you give us the words of kindness just to speak to folks along the way and help pull them out of despair or discouragement or whatever it takes. And so, Lord, help us run this race called life, called MCPL, with endurance and courage and boldness in these days. Amen.
Thank you. For a reflection, and also would like to mention, if any of the trustees have anything they'd like to offer for the reflections and do part of this, that you're very, very warmly invited to do so and participate this. But about a year ago, the concept was brought to my attention about the incredible synergies through creativity and the whole cooperative effort and working collaboration. So I picked up on the words in collaboration, and on the screen up there, Charles Darwin, who is singularly noted for his efforts in the whole area of biology as a naturalist, said in history, those who have learned to cooperate or collaborate and improvise have most effectively prevailed. And a hero for many people is Phil Jackson, quite a significant significant accomplishments in professional athletics, but even more so as a coach, said the strength of each member is in the team. And the records of his team certainly speak for themselves. And a personal hero of mine is Golda Meir, was the first female prime minister of Israel. She said, "I never did anything alone. Whatever was accomplished in this country was accomplished collectively." And I think too, with the great efforts here within the library, it shows that the 700, almost 800 full-time and part-time employees give great evidence to that. Okay. To our agenda, we have our consent agenda. Can we have a motion to approve that, please?
We need to first approve the agenda.
What second?
We need,
I'm sorry, what?
don't we need to first approve the agenda?
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
What we're doing? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Never
That was
mind.
Michael.
It's Michael and
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to approve our agenda.
That's all we did.
Yeah.
Misunderstood.
Okay, so moved and seconded, we approve our agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, Teresa, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Michelle Wyckoff.
Aye.
Trustee Rita Weeks.
Aye.
Trustee Ronald Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Yemi Pandolfi.
Aye.
Trustee Michael Lazio.
Aye.
Trustee Lori Lemunion. Trustee Noel Step.
Aye.
Trustee Susan Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Gordon Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Joycelyn Tucker Burgo.
Aye.
Trustee Robert Johnson. Trustee Marcy Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Lori Lemunion.
It popped up yes on the screen. The one up on that wall.
That was yes from Lori Lemunion. And then Trustee Bob Johnson.
Yes. Lori says yes.
Lori
Yes.
says
Lori says yes, she's typing.
There you go. Trustee Bob Johnson. Cody, can you check with him? He can hear us.
He is. They can hear us, but they're having some microphone issues talking back. So
Okay.
Cody's working with them. So
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Next matter for vote is the approval of the consent agenda, which entails our minutes of the previous meeting and the expense reports with a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
the moved and second that we approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, Teresa, would you call the vote again, please?
Trustee Michelle Wyckoff.
Aye.
Trustee Rita Weesey.
Aye.
Trustee Ronald Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Yemi Pandolfi.
Yes.
Trustee Michael Lazio. Trustee Lori Lemunion. Trustee Noel Step.
Aye.
Trustee Susan Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Gordon Cook.
Aye.
Trustee Joycelyn Tucker Burgo. Trustee Robert Johnson. Trustee Marcy Gray.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. I understand there are no visitor comments, but for those of you who are visitors, welcome, either here or live. Awards and recognition.
Sure. Thank you. First, I'd like to recognize Sarah Carnes, who is our new Legal Services Director. She came on board with the library on January 4th
Something like
or
that.
thereabouts. Yes. And she comes by way of Blue Springs, and we're happy to have her on board. She's kind of dove right in and is hard at work. And I'd like you to just share a little bit about yourself, and you could also add how wonderful it is to be here.
So wonderful. Hi, everyone. My name's Sarah Carnes. I'm your new legal counsel here. I started on January 4th. I just double checked. So, yes. I come here from City of Blue Springs, where I served as their city attorney for about a year and a half. Prior to that, I did some some work with the Attorney General's office, worked for a private law firm that also did city attorney work, and then I spent about 5 years in the City of Independence as their city clerk and utilities attorney. Happy to be here, and you know, with the snow days last week, this is day 5 I think in the office now, so I'm ready to get better weather and start making things happen. So thanks for having me. I'll be here next time.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so also, need to recognize Emma Brendel for 40 years of service at the library, which says a lot about Emma and it also says a lot about the library. This is a wonderful place to work. Emma regularly amazes me with her knowledge of MCPL and her dedication to the library and our community. But it's her positive attitude and kindness to all that truly make her such an irreplaceable member of our team. So Emma works in interlibrary loan, and Emma, we have this beautiful class award here that we want to give you. Yeah. Let's take a real picture.
Apparently I'm a photographer. She was highlighted last week's meeting.
Cody, this is Lori. Can you hear me now?
Man, Emma, you want to tell us about your first day at work?
I will.
Okay.
I went to work at the Buckner branch, and you can tell this was the old days. I always tell people I started back in the dark ages, kind of. But anyway, I went to work, and I was supposed to work, I was half-time, I was supposed to work from 3 to 9. Anyway, the ladies that were there, I kind of knew them because I was a good library patron anyway. And so anyway, they gave me a key to the door. They left at 5 o'clock. They told me to lock the door and close at 9. And just make sure the windows were all closed and everything. And so anyway, I did that, and I can't imagine putting a new employee with that nowadays. It has to do with the technology and all that kind of thing. But it all worked out fine.
Yes, it did.
And I've loved my job, and actually the pleasure's been all mine.
Thank you. Thank you. You served us well. Here you go. What else do we have? Oh, we need to.
I did one more. I believe it is 1 year ago today when I came on board. We have a very impressive, handsome certificate for him.
Thank you. I tell this story that I think I arrived a week before I started. So settled in, but the winter was so mild and I did not buy a shovel. And I didn't even have a pair of gloves. I just didn't even think to buy one because I didn't need it, So fast forward to this year and it snows. We closed the library because of snow. And I texted Teresa, I said, I need a shovel like bad. So there's a hardware store around the corner from you. So I go and get the shovel. This will be short. Get home and I'm like, I'm gonna make lunch, then I'll shovel the driveway later. And as I'm making lunch, the doorbell rings and it's these two boys, ages, if I'm guessing, 8 and 11. Can we shovel your driveway? And I said, how much? And they said, $10. $10. So I'm like, sure, go right ahead. I watched them out there toiling away. I mean, they did an excellent job. And eventually I just had enough. They weren't wearing caps or anything. And I said, look, it's fine. You're good. Here's $20. And the older boy goes, oh boy, can we give you a hug? So I got my snow shoveled and I got a hug from two lovely gentlemen in the neighborhood. But yes, so, but it says a lot about Missouri and the kindness of everyone here, and happy to be here, and hopefully there's many more years to come. So.
Great, thank you. All right, back to our agenda. We have financial reports. Jeremy?
Yes, good evening. Much like last month, the Finance Committee has reviewed the financial reports for the month, and so those are attached through board docs, but we want to provide just a summary for everyone here. So this is also on board docs if you want to read it at your leisure. If you want to go to the next slide, this is our slide comparing property taxes for this current fiscal year with last fiscal year. The library has collected $21.9 million through the first 6 months of our fiscal year compared to last year, which was just over $20 million. And we've collected 37.82% of our budget for the year. The next slide is our cash analysis. This is the same as what I discussed last month. We don't update it monthly, but we just wanted to provide it for context. Going on to the next slide is the general fund. The general fund has collected $23.1 million, or 38.6% of budgeted revenues through the first 6 months. Our expenditures are $36.9 million, which is 53.4, almost 53.5% of the budgeted expenditures. And our operating deficit is now $13.7 million for the year. Moving on to the capital project fund. We have collected $9.4 million, the majority of that being a transfer from the general fund as budgeted. Expenditures are $8.7 million, about 52.38% of the budget. So the operating surplus for this fund is currently at $757,000. Just a side note, the board amended this budget in its last meeting, adding the $55,000 for the demolition of Harvey Jones. So we've got a column showing the amended budget so that we can track that as the expenditures occur. And then the last slide for my presentation is on the health insurance fund. The fund has collected $2.1 million, or 47% of budgeted revenues through the first 6 months. Our expenditures are $2.2 million, or 47% of expenditures. So we're tracking fairly even there with a current year operating deficit of almost $103,000. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you here? Building committee?
Hey, Cody, can you see if Bob can respond or hear us?
I've tried calling him and getting a hold of him, and I cannot get a hold of him. It appears that there might be an issue with people who have called in not being able to get audio to us, but they can hear. Bob, if you can hear us, I'm going to try calling you. If you would pop out of the meeting, I might be able to help you get logged in a different way so you can talk to us.
Hey, Cody, if you can make contact, we can pick this up later. Anything from staff with respect to buildings?
Sure. I mean, it looks like our drywall is 97% complete at East Independence. We're working on tile, interior storefronts. Plumbing fixtures are being installed. Some lovely pictures there. Riverside, the paint is they're already beginning to paint the interior. The ceiling grid began in late December. Exterior storefronts and curtain wall finishings are up. So they're coming along, and I've had a chance to stop by both, and they're looking great.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have.
Yeah, fundraising?
We don't have a particular update at this time. I'm just told that Diana got some information to me today. We have a letter going out 1st of April, I believe it is, for our library giving day. So we're proceeding with that. We had a cancellation of our previous meeting due to an inability to get folks coordinated for a quorum. So we will continue to proceed to get that rescheduled and move on.
Great. Just as a reminder, this is also a prime time to consider Library Lovers membership from $25 up to increases. And that's something that heartily recommend. Wonderful effort. Personnel?
Personnel, the personnel committee met way back in November. We reported out, in December, and we mentioned at that time that we'd be bringing 2 issues to the full board. One of those issues will be in closed session later, and the other one will be under new business.
Okay, technology committee.
The technology committee did not meet this month because of the holiday.
Okay, thank you. Anything from staff on technology? Okay, then on my motion, I move that we, I'm sorry.
Finance committee meeting, finance committee, you've not.
Skip right over.
Finance, of course.
Okay.
Finance was first.
Yeah.
Go.
All right, Finance Committee met last Thursday. Obviously, to go through the financials in detail, which is, Jeremy said, are online. There were a couple other reports that were made. The first one was regarding the status of, I guess I'll call it the Prop L status and the contingency reserve that was available. If you remember from the April presentation of last year, there was about, in the original plan, or that was presented to the board, about 5.9 million contingency. The contract with Dunn, and I'm not going to read the wording, but allowed for Dunn to control that contingency. So that amount has been used over the course of the projects. The reason we kept this on the agenda was just to track where we were and whether we would have adequate funding for the Prop L, at least as it's currently planned. And the status is that where we are today is we have a little under 700,000 of available contingency. That even though the contract gives that sole authority to the construction manager, which is J.A. Dunn, that's really being controlled by Ellis Katz, who is our project manager. Eric Dixon, is he also the project manager, or is he?
He represents Dunn.
He's done, okay.
Dixon.
So Aaron and Alice are really kind of controlling it at this point. So it's available to be used on projects if it's needed. Like I said, what did you say the percentage was? 80% through the remainder?
I don't recall the exact
That's all
number,
right.
but we're on course to.
We're on the tail end, so whether that gets used will be based on what these remaining projects have. So the bottom line is we have 690. If it doesn't get spent, we will come in below what was projected earlier this year, actually last year. So this has been going on for a year since we kind of got our arms around this thing. And the status of funding is that we should not need any further funding for the Prop L projects. So I think that's a plus.
Hello.
The only thing that I would note on the contract is when I was digging into that, I went back into board docs, asked Teresa to look. It appears that contract was never presented to the board. And obviously that's a rather significant contract. So I would just make note that for Aaron and Ron, in terms of policies and what's happening, there should be some threshold for when contracts of that size should be presented to the board. At least that's kind of the takeaway I have from that. Any questions on that piece? Okay, the second presentation was on what I guess I'll label what was labeled the financial side of the health insurance plan. If you noticed on Jeremy's presentation, the term self-insurance has been removed from that piece because it was explained by Lockton in a very thorough presentation. we technically and legally are filed as a fully insured plan. So just some, I guess, legalese in that regard. What we wanted to understand from the financial side is what I'll call the exposure to the library is and the way the health insurance plan is funded. Very simply put, there is a minimum cost for administration, what I'll call the network access, and for what they label the pooling cost, I call it excess insurance, but it's the cost of insurance for the above the attachment point of 125,000 per member, and that is a calendar year basis. So that number is about a 1.1. The additional cost is then actual claims that come in, and then there is a maximum cost in the program. That maximum cost is in the range of 5.1 million, at least based on the head count that was in place at the inception of the 2024 calendar year. Again, this plan is a calendar year plan. We budget on a fiscal year, July to June. So you have two different plan years coming into effect on a fiscal year basis. So if you look at the numbers, there's exposure of, I'll call it $600,000 between what was budgeted and what the top side of what I'll call the aggregate limit under the contract is. So it's normal to make a loss pick, and that's what is done here. Lockton goes through their, I think, what was that system the system they use. So they take the data and they come up with a loss pick. That number was about 4.3 million. We are funding at 4.5. So there's a little bit of cushion in it, and then we have the additional exposure on top. So that needs to be considered in terms of our budget and our surplus. But in terms of just the budget, the 4.5 million is fine because that's based on the historical experience we have. So that was their presentation. There were a couple other things that came out of it that I think we'll pursue in our follow-up meetings. But that's the takeaway from that is just understanding what I'll call the financial side of the contracts. Any questions? Okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next matter is to adjourn our open session and reconvene in closed session.
Well,
What?
Aaron's report.
Library.
Report and then closed session.
That's all right.
Okay.
You know how we love you because we're not making you wait.
So, well, first, before you have this MCPL monthly, which is put together, it's quite nice. I mean, it mentions a lot of things that are going on in the library. I will say, pictured as the wonderful award we received in Platte County. That was a wonderful event. We had a lot of fun there. And one day I will learn how to look directly at the camera when I take pictures. So notice this is an area that I need to work on. But nonetheless, this is MCPL Monthly, and I absolutely love the cover. We have two staff members sitting outside our Green Valley branch trying to reenact the two lovely ladies from what year I do not know, standing in front of the old Green Valley branch. But if you haven't been to Green Valley, please go. It might rank up there as being one of my favorite locations. And if you go during sunrise or sunset, I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful the way the light casts across the branch. But most importantly, we have a very special guest here today, and it's our technical services manager, B. Love. And he leads the team that makes checking out books possible. And so she has a great work history, and she's sharp as a tack. And I invited her here to give us a little overview of what it takes to get a book from a vendor to our shelves.
And it will be a brief overview because we do so many things. So I will start out just letting you kind of know who we are. So yeah, my name is B Love. It's actually Elizabeth. There is a story behind the B part. If you're ever interested, I will tell you all about it. I've been with the library since 2021. And then I have Rachel, my assistant manager, is joining me this evening. She's been with the library since 2018. Next slide. We actually have staff in 2 buildings. So first, we have the Midwest Genealogy Center staff. There's 6 people there who deal specifically with our genealogy materials. They have to make sure that those materials are available to look up by family names, place names. We have maps, other historical documents. A lot of those are unique and one of a kind. So they spend a lot of time cataloging those items to make sure that we can find them in the catalog. We also have technical processors there and a bindery associate. We have a lot of items that end up needing to be hardbound so that people can check them out and use them. So that's what the bindery associate does there. So on the next slide, you'll get to see what's waiting at MGC to be cataloged and processed at this time. So you have donations to one side. We do also order some new items, but most of our items at MGC are donations. On the right-hand side, you have items that are going to be bound in hardcover, so our bindery associate will take care of those. All right, next slide.
I have a question.
Yes.
Could you tell them like what types of things are bound?
Oh, what types of things are bound? So lots of our donations come as loose leaf paper or notebooks, old typeset manuscripts, typescripts. So those come loose or in soft covers. And so for people to be able to use those, they need to put them in a hard cover for preservation purposes. They're actually not checked out from the library. They do have to use them in-house, but we do want to keep them as fresh as possible. So we rebind them, put a nice cover on them with a title and put them on the shelf.
One more softball question. This for everybody here. And so how are those items different than the popular titles that arrive here at headquarters?
All right, well, we will get into the popular titles. That's most of what the rest of what I'm going to talk about, because we all know that's what makes our library, is millions of them.
You said donated or on the left side of the.
Yeah.
So what does the library accept?
So for MGC, they accept all types of family histories, maps, yearbooks. We have microforms. All of those things are usually coming from either historical societies or from people's homes. So we have a collection librarian there who scans through all of those items and decides what's worthy to go in the library.
It's important to note that, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the donated materials or materials that we acquire for MGC require a higher level of care, right? So the bibliographic records for many of these items, either they don't exist and we have to do original cataloging, or maybe there's just kind of a skeletal record that could be downloaded. So the time it takes to process these materials is quite a bit longer than your new title by James Patterson or something like that.
Yeah, they have to actually read into that material to see how many family names they can find in order to make them as useful as possible. So it can take a couple of hours to catalog one item at MGC, as opposed to our popular materials who come usually with a record. We do look at that book in hand to make sure that the record that we've been sent is correct. But we can do those. Each cataloger averages about 80 per week in cataloging.
When you get those family records, books or that have family names, some of those, if it has a lot, do you also like digitally tag those so that it can be searchable?
We try to digitally tag as many as possible.
A quick question. So I was just doing a little Google search because I know that my husband wrote a genealogy. He wrote a book, and his goal was to donate a copy to the library. As I do a little quick search, I'm not finding it pop up. And it did suddenly occur to me, maybe he never got that done before. But I have.
It's possible.
I have the hard copy and a digital copy. So Can you, when we're done here, forward me, so tell me who to connect with, because it's like, I'm not seeing that on there. I know he spent several years doing all that genealogical research, and I can give you a bound copy and a digital if that's helpful.
Absolutely.
But I would want that in the collection, obviously, so.
I will.
I know there was it's an intention, and I'm not seeing it up here, so I'm thinking, maybe, I just thought he had it done, but before he passed, I'm not sure that he got it donated.
Well, we can make that happen.
I'll do that.
All right. Okay, so headquarters. You'll see my lovely staff. While I was on vacation, they had a photo shoot. We used that for our Christmas card for the library. We do have quite a few more people at headquarters, but we also process quite a bit more in volume. So we do all of the rest of the mainstream materials. So books, DVDs, CDs. We also catalog reader kits, museum passes, Chromebooks, hotspots, any of the other items that the library sees fit to have available for our patrons, because our patrons find that very valuable. We also clean and repair our AV discs to prolong their life. Those discs go through a lot of hands, especially our children's materials. So we clean those regularly, and we have two people who do that in our branch, or at headquarters. It's a big branch. All right. Next, so I think we all know why cataloging is essential, but I'm going to go over that just a little bit. It is essential because without that catalog, we wouldn't be able to find all of the items that we have, and they would just sit on our shelves unused. So that is a process of creating and maintaining a database with records for our library materials. We do use standardized language when we do that. That makes them link together and makes them easier to search. A library catalog is not a Google search. It is actually much more precise and much more refined because we have people who take the time to make sure that the words match the materials that are being presented. All right, next. Now, this is a visual roadmap of how the process works in technical services. So after our collection librarians provide us with the orders, we actually send those orders in electronically to the vendors. The vendors receive them, they fulfill the orders, they process those books, and when they process them as shelf ready, that means they come with all of the RFID tags, barcodes, and Mylar already complete. So then they ship those back to us, and we receive pallet loads of books, several thousand per week. Then those books are unpacked. So we unpack those, we receive those items in the orders in the database so that they can be linked together and we can track what we've received and what we've paid. We then sort those books in AB onto carts so that they are get sorted to the right part of the department, whether they need cataloging attention or if they just need to go straight out the door. About 80 to 85% of the books that we receive at headquarters are what we call shelf ready. Then the remaining 15 come with either only partial processing or no processing at all and no cataloging. That happens because we frequently purchase patron requests, and a lot of those are independently published, so they don't come without information. We're actually creating original records for those, and those original records go out into the public library networks for other libraries to use. We are actually complimented as having some of the best records in the country. All right, then our invoices get reviewed. We assign our budget codes. We pay those every week. The catalogers then take each and every title. So even if it comes with a record from the vendor, the cataloger still goes back and reviews that record to make sure it's correct, has all the subject headings, the title is correct, all the spelling is correct. So they're ensuring that it meets our personal standards here at the library. And if they don't, we write a new record for it. Then it goes off to the technical processors to ensure that if it has been pre-processed, that processing is correct. And then if not, we can make corrections or we apply the stickers that we need. Then it goes off to the dock for delivery and the branches take over from there. Next slide. And now,
Yeah. You mentioned that you process some patron requests.
we do.
I know that the library, our library system is one of the largest borrowers and lenders in interlibrary loan, but how does a patron request a copy from the library for the collection?
Sure. On our website, there is a section, and I can't tell you exactly where it is on our website, but you can navigate there, that you can make a request for a book, any item that you would like. That goes to the collection management department, and then they make a decision if they're going to purchase it. We order a lot of those through Amazon, and so Amazon doesn't come with any processing or anything like that, but we do quite a few patron requests so that we can have a book on the shelf that someone is looking for.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so the numbers are quite large. At the end of 2023, Mid-Continent had 1.2 million unique resources available in our library catalog. So that's 1.2 million titles. That includes electronic databases, books, CDs, DVDs, all of those other items that I've talked about. That is 3 million individual items, both physical and digital. In 2023, we received 247,000 new items. As new items come in, old items do get shifted out. They get weeded out for various reasons. Travel books, for instance, are replaced every year. Other books do have longer lives in the library. Then, of those 247,000, 214,000 of them went through technical services. So those are physical items. That is an average of 17,000 per month or 4,100 per week. And as you saw, we have 13 people to do all of that work here at headquarters. The MGC numbers are, of course, quite a bit different. We do have a variety of things that come through. Publishing ebbs and flows throughout the year, so March and October are usually our heaviest months because of spring and fall publishing. And on the next slide, you will see what that looks like in our hallway. So that is a couple of days worth of pallets that have been delivered. Children's Plus, which is the purple, the CPI in the front, those are all children's books, lots of board books, picture books, juvenile reader books, and then the brown boxes behind that are from our Baker and Taylor, and that can include all of our adult books, nonfiction, fiction, tons and tons of books. And then the carts on the other side is how we get them sorted out so that our team can catalog and process them through the department. That was a heavy day. Okay, so that ends this whirlwind tour of technical services. And any of you are welcome to contact me, email me, call me, and I am happy to explain all of that in more detail. And if you would like to come tour our department, you are welcome at any time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. You know, our degree that we have is, it's a master's of library and information science. To the uninformed, they're like, science, where's the science? But the science rests in technical services department and IT and facilities. But without their scientific expertise, this place would be a mess. So we're very appreciative of your work and thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I would like to hear the rest of the story.
Oh, yes, yes. You call me up anytime and I will tell you all about it.
Yeah, thanks. If you do want to stop by, it's worth a visit.
Yeah, no, I'd love to.
The one thing that's very unique about their department is they see everything that comes through. So no matter what it is, a board book, I don't know, technical manuals, anything, it all passes across their desk.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, so they're the most knowledgeable.
It's a hazard because I think I have 52 books checked out right now. And I'm not going to read all of those in a few weeks, so I have to go back and sort everybody's shops, the hallway for what's coming in.
And last thing I did want to make the board aware of, so B mentioned that 214,000 items pass through a department on an annual basis, right?
That was last year.
Yeah. A report just came out that also mentions our volume in ebook circulation. So as it stands right now, we rank 10th in the nation as far as ebook. And I think annually we circ 4 million? What's the number?
It's a lot, and sorry, I do not have that number on the top of my head.
But I bring this up because Mid-Continent Library, we're 10th, but we're grouped with places like Los Angeles Public Library, Toronto, King County, which is a 50 branch system, in Seattle, in Washington, excuse me, New York Public Library, San Diego. And it's really an important distinction, right? Here we are in Missouri, kind of operating quietly, but we're up against truly the heavyweights in the library world. So we're doing a great job, and this investment in materials and resources definitely is worthwhile. So that's that.
Good, thank you.
What's next?
So, closed session.
All right. So now we have a closed session. And we'll be on the other side.
But you need to, a motion and a vote, and this is why we're going to close session, so.
Second. Can you go to the next slide?
Next slide, Cody. Next slide.
Oh, there's more. Yeah. I move to move into closed session for items as permitted under RSMO 610.021 for the purpose of the items listed there.
All right. I'll see you guys.
So we need to take a motion.
No, we have to vote.
No, wait, now.
We have to vote. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion, we have to vote. And, right.
I need a motion
And a second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I had a second.
Okay, so moving in a second that we adjourn current meeting and reconvene in closed session. Is there any discussion? Okay, Tracy, will you please call the vote? Mark, no.
Trustee Michelle Wyckoff. Trustee Rita Weesey.
Sorry, that was an I for me.
Thank you. Here. Trustee Ronald Peters.
Yes.
Trustee Yummy Pandolfi.
Yes.
Trustee Michael Lazio.
Yes.
Trustee Lori Lemunion.
Yes.
Trustee Noel Stepp.
Yes.
Trustee Susan Wilson. Trustee Gordon Cook.
Yes.
Trustee Joycelyn Tucker Burgo.
Yes.
Trustee Robert Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Marcy Gray.
Yes.
Trustee Susan Wilson. Motion